unsurprising. This is the biggest fight in Japanese history between two, elite Japanese fighters. And I understand styles make fights. I get it. But in this case, I guess what I'm reacting to is Inoue is what I consider one of these super fighters. His speed, his reflexes, his power. Mike, what's the word I always like to use? Twitchies are different, right? They're elite. And Junto is like as good as it gets for a normally excellent fighter.
And I also think, I just won't be surprised. And as you all know, I already have. I'm going with Junto as a favorite in this, as far as my personal. So it won't be a big upset to me. I can't see someone with his type of technically sound game, with his system, with his work rate. I just don't see guys like that ever as an underdog in any type of fight there.
Max Kellerman has provided an in-depth breakdown of the highly anticipated clash between Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani, analyzing their contrasting styles, strengths, and fight tactics. He highlights Inoue's explosive power, precision, and finishing ability, while pointing to Nakatani's size, reach, and technical southpaw skill set as key factors that could shape the fight. Kellerman suggests that this stylistic clash makes the matchup one of the most intriguing and unpredictable bouts in modern boxing.
Clash of two top 10 pound-for-pound fighters. The number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in all the world, the monster, Naoya Inoue, takes on number 6 Junto Nakatani at the Tokyo Dome.
Max Kellerman points out that the fight between Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani is not getting much attention in the United States. He explains that this is mainly due to the lower weight classes, which traditionally draw less American interest, and the fact that the fight is taking place in Japan, far from the US audience.
Ordinarily, when you have a clash of top 10 pound-for-pounders, but this one feels as though, at least from where we're sitting in LA, that it's flown a bit under the radar. Now, in the first place, it's two tiny division fighters, right? Once you get below lightweight, especially featherweight, the American public has a tendency anyway to think, well, they're kind of tiny guys and be a little less interested. They're both Japanese fighters, and so the fight's taking place halfway around the world from here, and they haven't been marketed in this country the way they've been marketed in Japan for obvious reasons. And also, Inoue is about a 3-to-1 favorite, so it's not considered a 50-50.
Max Kellerman notes that Naoya Inoue is a strong favorite, priced at around 3-to-1 odds, but warns against underestimating Junto Nakatani. He draws a comparison to Tyson versus Holyfield, where a dominant favorite still faced serious challenges from a highly skilled and dangerous underdog capable of testing even the very best.
Tyson Holyfield. Does this have a little shade of that, where Mike Tyson would have always been a big favorite against Holyfield, right? In retrospect, he shouldn't have been, but at the time he would have been. Then he loses, goes to prison, Holyfield becomes champion. And going into their fight, which had been postponed for years, Mike hadn't looked as good since since he was still champ. He had looked better than he had in years, beating the hell out of Frank Bruno. Better than he'd beaten Frank Bruno the first time, even though Bruno was coming off a good win. While Holyfield fought a blown-up middleweight, ultimately, in Bobby Ches, and looked horrible. So heading into that fight, people thought Tyson would win anyway, but now it was like, okay, Inoue looked better than Nakatani last.
Max Kellerman leaned toward Naoya Inoue as the favorite, but boxing insider Mike Coppinger pushed back, arguing the matchup is much closer than it appears. He suggests the fight is highly competitive and not as one-sided as many initially believe.
Much closer to a 55-45 fight, maybe in favor of Inoue. And look, Inoue is he's a future Hall of Famer, first ballot. He's an all-time great, so he deserves that respect. And I was ringside on the call for those 2 fights in December in Riyadh. And like Malik said, that was a really tough style. Nakatani, Sebastian Hernandez, pressure style, Mexican, first fight at 122. So to me, I felt more encouraged going into this fight instead of less. And I just think maybe it's falling under the radar because it's going to be on very early morning in the US, this fight's in Japan. But just this morning they announced, Max, this is a sold-out fight at the Tokyo Dome. They're going to have 55,000.
Jesse Rodriguez says he respects both Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani, calling them elite champions, but slightly favors Inoue due to his speed, power, and experience. He also added that he is ready to face the winner at any time, believing the fight is inevitable if he continues winning.
About down the line, not next, but definitely down the line, would love to see you fight either against Nakatani Nakatani or Inoue. Do you want to maybe say who you favor in that fight between the two?
I think Inoue wins the fight. Just because he has more experience. He's been in the weight division longer than Nakatani has, so I do favor Inoue, but Nakatani, he does have a chance as well, just because he has that kind of one-punch power.
Maybe that could be the big fight in your hometown, right?
Yeah, hopefully. If not, I don't mind going to Japan either. I love going to Japan. I love spending.
Cool.
Yeah, I love spending time there. So.
Oh, so you have traveled there before?
Yeah, I've been there plenty of times, but like I said, either San Antonio or Japan. I don't.
Veteran trainer Joel Diaz believes Naoya Inoue has too much power and precision for Junto Nakatani, predicting a stoppage victory. He argues that Inoue's timing, body punching, and elite finishing ability will ultimately break Nakatani down and end the fight before the final bell.
Inoue, you've faced him a couple times against Nakatani. Just how do you think that one goes?
You know, I've been against Inoue twice. You know, and I seen that fighter in person. I mean, I've been in the ring with him. He's fast, he's strong, confident, and I've also been against Nakatani. I've been against Nakatani before with Tito Acosta. I just think that Nakatani will put up a fight, but Inoue will stop him.
Inoue's been dropped by a few left hands. So there hurt him with a left hand.
But he gets up and he still wins. But I just think that Nakatani, I mean, he's not ready for Inoue yet.
Nonito Donaire, a multi-division world champion, described Naoya Inoue as the toughest and most powerful opponent he has ever faced. He highlighted Inoue's explosive punching, accuracy, and relentless pressure, admitting their fights pushed him to his absolute limits and proved Inoue's elite level greatness.
It comes down to a lot of things, you know. I think the best guy that I faced, and maybe perhaps if I was younger, it might be a different story, but at the moment of who I am in this time, I would say Inoue is the toughest that I've faced, or the strongest that I've faced.
You mentioned Inoue as probably potentially the best fighter that you faced in your career. What is it about him that gives you that distinction?
I think it was like facing the younger me. You know, there's just a lot of similarities in terms of power, explosiveness, and sometimes intelligence. You know, but I think a lot of it is given the similarities is what makes it more.
Chris Algieri expects Naoya Inoue to edge out a close competitive fight against Junto Nakatani, likely winning by unanimous or majority decision rather than an early knockout. He predicts a tactical battle with momentum shifts, possible knockdowns on both sides, and high-level exchanges driven by both fighters' power, timing, and precision.
This is another one that's going to be neck and neck. I'm going off of Inoue because of the experience that he has and who he's done it with. You know, that Fulton destruction was a beautiful thing, and that was all boxing IQ. That was an IQ. That wasn't about speed. That wasn't about power. That was IQ, and he set everything up beautifully with the jab. So yeah, I'm gonna go Naoya Inoue on IQ as well.
All right, it's time for our predictions. Inoue versus Nakatani. I always go first. I'm putting you on the clock.
Mike Coppinger suggested that if Naoya Inoue defeats Junto Nakatani convincingly, he could rise to #1 in the pound-for-pound rankings, potentially surpassing Alexander Usyk. However, he noted that this would depend on Usyk's continued standing and the overall strength and activity of elite competition at that time.
Does Inoue then have a case for Usyk's #1 pound-for-pound spot? Mike?
Yes, absolutely, Max. I mean, we're talking about knocking off the pound guy. If he does it in fashion, I think you have to put Inoue #1 at that point. I mean, obviously, especially when you compare Usyk's going to be fighting Rico Verhoeven, right, a kickboxer, so he's not going to be able to really strengthen his resume, even if he blows out Verhoeven. Whereas if Inoue, if he beats Nakatani in fashion and convincing.
Malik Scott suggested that Naoya Inoue should already be ranked #1, or at least right beside Alexander Usyk in the pound-for-pound standings. He based his argument on Inoue's elite-level opposition so far, as well as the dangerous challengers he is expected to face in the future, saying it further strengthens his case as boxing's best fighter.
3. You know, if you start fighting the wrestler or the kickboxer, it makes it hard, especially if people are bringing up, what about Caballel? What about obviously Moses Atama? And you're opting instead, or the names you're mentioning, how about this kickboxer? How about Deontay Wilder, who's past his prime? And you're 38 years old? I think what Mike is saying has validity. Where are you with that?
I'm with Mike on that totally. Especially, it doesn't help right now because Usyk is fighting, a kickboxer. He's basically taking a chance with something that, many of us wouldn't even consider a risk with the kickboxer. And then when you turn the page and you look at what Inoue is facing and maybe possibly facing in the future, considering Espinoza, considering Van Rodriguez, I would say you have to put him right under Usyk, if not over.
Max Kellerman acknowledged that on paper, Naoya Inoue appears to be the bigger, more proven fighter, but cautioned against oversimplifying his rise through weight classes. Kellerman pointed out that while Inoue has moved up multiple divisions, each jump is only a few pounds, unlike extreme weight climbs seen in boxing history. He emphasized that Inoue's devastating power may not carry the same dominance at higher weights, especially against naturally bigger opponents. He added that facing elite fighters like Rafael Espinoza could expose potential limits in Inoue's ability as size, durability, and competition level become increasingly challenging at those divisions.
Okay,
I mean, that's a great
I agree with you on paper. However, again, Inoue has already jumped a bunch of divisions.
Right.
Now, let's not overstate it. In that weight territory, a division is 4 pounds. So it's not like he moved up the way Pacquiao moved all the way up to junior middleweight. But he has moved up a bunch.
He's nice though, Max.
He's nice with his hands, but also he was a devastating puncher until just now.
Yes.
And now you're asking him to go one more division up to fight a killer in that division. Are you like Inoue's chances more than Shushu's or Angelo Leo or anyone's?
I like Inoue. He has up in weight classes in
Inoue.
Yes, but to be clear, I'm not saying I'd take Inoue over Espinoza. He's the best shot. Yes, for me, it's no question because the only elite fighter I think at featherweight is Espinoza. And I agree, Shushu and a couple of more fights will be more ready. I don't think Shushu's ever going to be on the level of Espinoza the way I see him right now. And I think if he talks to people behind the scenes, that's...
If Naoya Inoue wins, experts suggest his next move should be either Jesse Rodriguez or Rafael Espinoza, two high-risk, high-reward matchups that could define his legacy. Both fighters present very different challenges. Bam Rodriguez brings elite speed, skill, and pound-for-pound talent, while Espinoza offers size, pressure, and physicality at a higher weight class. Malik Scott emphasizes that when evaluating a fighter of Inoue's caliber, the focus should only be on elite-level opponents capable of truly testing him, not just credible contenders. He argues that Bam Rodriguez and Espinoza stand out as the most meaningful challenges available, saying great fighters must be measured against the toughest possible opposition.
Then most like to see him face next, Mike? Is it like, let's hold on. Let's just say, is it anyone other than either Bam moving up or Inoue moving up to fight Espinoza?
No, that's it. Those are the two options, Max. And I want to see Bam first before Inoue moves up. We have Bam moving up to 118 in June for the first time. So he's getting closer now. And I want to see that fight next if Inoue does win as expected. Again, I'm not sleeping on Nakatani at all, though. I think Nakatani is going to give Inoue all he can handle. But just talking about lower weights, Inoue and Bam Rodriguez is one of the biggest fights probably in history, below 126.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bam, the reason, Malik, that you look at Inoue and Bam, should Inoue beat Nakatani, is those are both special, super, top 5 poundy, speed, power, skill, the whole thing type fighters, and that's always a super.
Jesse Rodriguez has made it clear he is ready to face Naoya Inoue next, expressing confidence that a showdown between them is inevitable. He believes that as long as both fighters continue winning, the fight will naturally come together in the near future. Rodriguez has even shown willingness to travel to Japan to help finalize the bout, highlighting just how eager he is for the challenge. He views Inoue as one of the biggest tests of his career and is actively positioning himself for that opportunity, with early discussions reportedly taking place between promoters and both camps showing interest. The matchup is widely seen as one of the most anticipated future fights in boxing.
Inoue finally getting in there, that's a fight that will define this era in the lower weight classes.
I think so. I think me against Inoue would definitely be, if not one of the biggest fights in the lower weight divisions.